Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. In our last two podcasts, we got into a time machine and we went back to 1963. And why did we do that? Because we wanted to look at what the Congressional record had to say back then, what was read into the Congressional record, and a list of goals by the Communist Party. These goals came from a book entitled "The Naked Communist" and was written by Cleon Skouskin, and these goals were about communism, what they were trying to do in this country. Of course, communism is from Marxism, Karl Marx and Engels, who came up with this ideology and basically saying that there's an oppressed class, there's oppressors, and most of you are oppressed, and you need to have a revolution in order to, get back some semblance of life against these oppressors that are just using you for their own, selfish reasons. So that's what communism is in a nutshell. And again, it's very anti-religion because you don't want God. God says that you are. You have a free will, and you are a person whose identity is in God, not the government. And they want you dependent on the government, not on God. So anyway, that's where we've gone, and we went through the first 25, and so let's pick up at number 26. And number 26 says, present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. That's kind of an interesting one, right? I think the 1970s helped with this a lot. The sexual revolution, all that kind of stuff. I just saw a Tide commercial just the other day where the living together. They didn't even have to put this in here. It was a Tide commercial about washing your clothes, right, and what soap to use. But they threw in there, oh yeah, we're living together and we're finally getting married, but hey, we need to get our clothes clean, and we use Tide. So it was promoting that and as normal. They wouldn't have thrown that in there if they didn't believe that was a normal thing that people believed. In college, I was told that there was a gal, and we were doing some debate on a book that we had read or whatever, and I was told by this gal. When I made the statement that I wanted to wait to have sex until I got married, that this gal said I wouldn't marry someone that I didn't have sex with first, and that I didn't live with even, and that was a normal thing. That's what the majority of the class believed, and that was a number of years ago. Well. Let's take a look at studies now. Studies show that you have a 98% chance of not being in poverty if you do three things. High school diploma, so you graduate from high school, you go get a job, and you wait to have kids till after you're married. If you do those three things, then you have a 98% chance of not being in poverty. So despite that, right, the normal thing to do is to have, is to promote promiscuity and hey, it doesn't matter if you get married, all this kind of stuff. You can live together no matter what. That's what that's what's become normal, and that was a goal. Number 27, infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. Discredit the Bible. Yes, discredit the Bible and emphasize the need for intellectual maturity, which does not need a religious crutch. Wow. How much has this gone through? The key values and beliefs of the progressive church center around certain things. And again, this is not me talking. This is what they espouse. Okay, the inclusion and dignity is one of the things that they like to espouse. This again, we're not talking about social justice warriors. We're talking about progressive church leaders. Okay, a deep commitment to the inherent worth and dignity of every person, making their communities a welcoming space for all, regardless of race, sexual orientation, gender identity, class, ability, or other differences. Again, some of these words, they sound really nice, but in practice, they are anti-biblical. Social justice, they put it right there. Social justice, a focus on challenging systematic injustices and working for positive change in areas like poverty, environmental issues, and human rights, rooted in the belief that following Jesus means actively working for the marginalized. So again, it's devaluing God, devaluing Christ, devaluing Jesus, and basically saying he's a social justice warrior. All right, questioning and open-mindedness. It says a willingness to question traditions, explore diverse perspectives, and seek deeper understanding, often finding more value in questioning than in rigid dogma or absolute certainty. So again, let's get down to the absolute truth stuff. Is there absolute truth? Yes, there absolutely is. And if you say that no, there absolutely is not absolute truth, well, you've absolutely said an absolute statement, right? So you're absolutely incorrect by saying that. Are you following me here? Absolute truth. There's definitely absolute truth, and it's biblical, and there's biblical truth. It's absolute. And yet the progressive church says no, there is not. And I've had some conversations with people that'll say, well, there may be absolute. So they try to get out of the the two-faced thing, speaking out of both sides of their mouths. By saying, well, there may be absolute truth, but yeah, we just never know what it is, right? Yeah, we do if you read the Bible. All right. Empathy and compassion, emphasizing radical compassion, selfless love, and acting with grace, believing that a just and powerful world is built on these qualities. I would say their definition of love and the Bible's definition of love, pretty different, very different, in fact. Faith as a journey, they would say, viewing faith as an ongoing process of growth and learning rather than a fixed destination, and seeing themselves as work in progress Christians. So again, a lot of progressive Christians do not believe in heaven. They do not believe in hell, in fact. And so they just see this as a faith journey. Again, we can get in more of that. We've gotten into some of that before. And environmental stewardship is their last one. It's a commitment to caring for creation and acting as responsible caretakers of the earth, and integrating scientific understanding with spiritual values. So again, a lot of progressive church, what they believe is that we're not going to heaven because we don't believe in a heaven. We're going to stay on earth, but we're going to have this wonderful earth where everybody just works together. There's no hate and there's all love and this kind of thing. This utopian view, again, very anti-biblical. But that they don't believe that Jesus is God or the Bible is entirely true, and that's their problem, right? And that fits right in with that number 27 goal of communism. All right, number 28. Eliminate prayer or any phrase of religious expression in the schools on the ground that it violates the principle of separation of church and state. Okay, this is an easy one, right? There is no separation of church and state. That's case closed, right? Period. Full stop. There is no separation of church and state. There is a separation of the state from the church. Okay, so there is a constitutional case to be made for that, but there is no case to be made for a separation of the church from the state. And that's what they're trying to do, because again, communism doesn't want religion. It doesn't want God. Number 29, discredit the American Constitution by calling it inadequate, old-fashioned, out of step with modern needs, a hindrance to cooperation between nations on a worldwide basis. Yeah, we see that a lot today. The U.S. Constitution desperately needs updating, you'll hear. In fact, Harvard government professor Stephen Levinsky and Daniel Liblatt has said this very thing. Quote, "We have a very, very old Constitution. In fact, the oldest written Constitution in the world," is what Zimblatt noted. And he's a Eton professor of the science of government professor. And he said it was written in a pre-democratic era. It hasn't been amended much compared to other democracies. As a result, we have these institutions in place that most other democracies got rid of over the course of the 20th century. Yeah, there's a reason for that, because our founding fathers were geniuses, and they put stuff in the Constitution that has to this day helped us. And if you look, and we just did a podcast just a little while ago on what's happening in the UK and the fact that they don't have the same rights there. In fact, very much so. There is so much when it comes to free speech, and you do a couple memes and you can get arrested. It's just they're arresting all kinds of people for free speech type violations. So anyway, that's that one I think we can give a check mark to. Number 30, discredit the American founding fathers, present them as selfish aristocrats who had no concern for the common man. Well, I would say they took this one to the next level. I mean, now they're just simply calling them sexist and racist. I mean, how many times have you heard, well, our founding fathers had slaves? Yeah, well, this one you could, I think you can double check. Number 31, belittle all forms of American culture and discourage the teaching of American history on the ground that it was only a minor part of the big picture. Give more emphasis on Russian history since the communists took over. Of course, this is like discrediting of Christopher Columbus. The Indigenous People Day is in replacement of Columbus Day now. And they will say, well, yeah, Columbus, he was such a bad guy. We shouldn't be honoring a bad guy. We honor a lot of bad guys who did good things. I mean, there's just no two ways around it. And so, I mean, if that was your, if that was your argument, and you believe that our founding fathers were slave owners, and you believe that they were really bad, and we need to get rid of the Constitution because of it. Well, yeah, Christopher Columbus. I mean, it's a double standard, right? It's an obvious double standard. You can't have this argument and be intellectually honest. And of course, indigenous people were all really good people, right? They just, anyway. All right. Since there is no USSR, anymore, we can't really have, Russian history be a positive thing anymore. But we do have Black History Month, right? We have Hispanic Month is celebrated each year from September 15th to October 15th. How about Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month? Next year, May 1st to May 31st. October is LGBTQ Heritage Month, right? And November is Native American Heritage Month. April is Arab American Heritage Month. And how about Pride Month, right? Everybody knows June, right? Pride Month. And of course, you can have Pride Month, but you can't have fireworks right after it, right? Fireworks are bad, Pride Month good, right? I mean, this is all goes to this same thing, right? We need to tear down American history. You didn't hear me mention White American Month, right? And if we had White American Month, how would that go over? Yeah, anyway. Number 32, support any socialist movement to give centralized control over any part of the culture, education, social agencies, welfare programs, mental health clinics, etc. Yeah, I mean, again, socialism is just communism light, is what it is. And when we see defund the police and increase social workers instead, right? So take police off the street, put social workers out there instead, and everything will be hunky dory. A lot of big cities have tried this one and failing at it. Mandatory spending, like Social Security, Medicare, that type of thing, has increased from 45% of the federal budget in fiscal year 1980 to 61% right now in fiscal year 2024. So we spend at the federal level over 61% just on those type of programs. The closure of mental institutions, known as deinstitutionalization, is a complex process that began in the mid 20th century. We could go on and on about how we've done all of these things on behalf of supporting socialism, and I'm not saying Social Security is socialism, but what I'm saying is that as we go into these areas of just simply handing out money for look at disability and how many people are on disability now, get disability checks, and for just about anything. And so, it's again, you just sit back, you don't have to take care of yourself. We, the government, will take care of you. Number 33, eliminate all laws or procedures with which interfere with the operation of the communist apparatus. Yeah, I mean, we could go into that over and over, but again, right down to defund the police, all kinds of different things. I think you can check mark that one. Number 34, eliminate the House Committee on Un-American Activities. Well, again, this was back in 1963. I think we're okay there. Number 35, discredit and eventually dismantle the FBI. Wow, this is an interesting one, right? Weaponization of the FBI is a big deal right now. In fact, the FBI's breach of religious freedom is something that even congressional hearings are taking place right now. The weaponization of law enforcement against Catholic Americans is being reviewed by Congress right now, and this was all about the FBI and how corrupt the FBI has become. And again, this was something that was one of the communist goals back in 1963. Number 36 was infiltrate and gain control of more unions. I like the fact that they put on here more unions, like they already have control of unions. And really, the union movement really embraced communism, and almost you could say you could make a case where the union movement grew out of communism. But anyway, that's again another podcast. But I would say that things have kind of reversed in some ways. Union membership is dropping now, so this is a good thing. In an era that is getting better, I think, as union membership is dropping. In fact, if you look at it, 20% of the workforce was had a union membership in 1983. See, it's not that long ago. I know I'm old. But today, just last year, 2024, that has been cut in half, 10% now, and a lot of those are government workers. But anyway, again, another podcast. Number 37, infiltrate and gain control of big business. CEOs that support capitalism just seem to be less and less. Have you noticed that? Something that I definitely have been exploring, where there's more CEOs that are definitely far left than they ever used to be. I mean, Zuckerberg of Meta said not too long ago at a congressional hearing that liberal lawmakers pressured them, Meta, meaning Meta and Facebook and stuff, into squelching free speech of conservatives. And so if they're not far left, they're definitely influenced or pressured into doing the far left's bidding. Number 38, transfer some of the powers of arrest from the police to local and or social agencies. Treat all behavioral problems as psychiatric disorders, which no one but the psychologists can understand or treat. Yeah, this gets to the defund the police and replace with social workers thing. That's been a big movement, and it's also been a big failure. As if you follow very much of this, some of these big cities that have done this are just, I mean, Trump has had to go in and with the National Guard now just to stifle some of the chaos that's happening on a criminal basis. But anyway, number 39, to dominate the psychiatric profession and use mental health laws as a means of gaining coercive control over those who oppose communist goals. You know what's a really good example of this one right here, I think, is hate crimes, hate crime laws. I am not in favor of hate crime laws. I think hate crime laws are pretty bad for our society and our country as a whole, because you may say, well, how can you be against hate? No, I'm not against hate. I mean, I am against hate. I'm not against combating hate. What I am against is I'm against DAs and the government basically saying, well, guess what? We think you did what you did. Now, again, I don't break the law, but if I did, and the government was trying to convict me of that, they would say, well, we think you did what you did because of hate. This is what you were thinking when you did that. Well, you could slap that on anything. I mean, you could slap that on, if they arrested me for something having to do with, holding a sign, let's say, that said, I don't like LGBTQ policy or whatever. And they say, oh, well, you did this, that was against the law, and you did it because you hate gays. No, that's not true. I don't hate them. I don't like the policy, and I don't like hate crime laws. So anyway, I just think that to try to get into the heads of people, that is very easily abused, if nothing else. Number 40, discredit the family as an institution. Encourage promiscuity and easy divorce. Wow, this is a big one, right? And has such biblical connotations as well. One child policy of communist countries. China is reeling from that. They've actually had to do away with their one child policy because of their spiraling replacement numbers. I mean, if you look, and it's not just China. I mean, if you look all across the world, and in large part, abortion has had a huge effect in this area, where people are not replacing themselves, right? I mean, you have a man and a woman, let's say, if you have a marriage, typically, and they're not replacing themselves with two children. They have, on average, they're having less than those two children. Thus, the number of people is going down, and as that spirals, it gets worse and worse, and that's what, and we're seeing that because of the discrediting of the family. I mean, Gen Z study came out not long ago where among women, number 10 on a list of priorities of life for women, number 10 was having children. Guess what number 11 was? Not even in the top 10, getting married. So actually having children was higher than getting married. But anyway, of the priorities of life, getting married wasn't even in the top 10. So yeah. I mean, we could go on and on about how the family has, and the institution of the family has just been bastardized. It's been it's been just tried to be torn down. Now there's some movement in the other direction now, kind of the pendulum swing now, but I think you can safely say number 40 is a check mark for the communists here. Number 41, embrace the need to raise children away from negative influence of parents. Attribute prejudices, mental blocks, and retarding of children to suppress influence of parents. Can remember this is 1963, okay? Yeah, I mean, this one right here. I would say even in Washington, the schools are in the state of Washington are not requiring you requiring the school districts to inform parents for you about anything that happens to your child at school. There's one exception, and they tried to get rid of that too. The exception is for rape. If your child gets raped, they have 48 hours to inform you. That's the only exception. Anything else, whether or not they're trying to get your child to have surgery, an abortion, they got beat up, something happened, they do not have to tell the parent. Period. That's it. It comes from an attitude about parents, and again, being on a school board, I saw this firsthand, where the attitude of teachers is that they know best, and that's a very common attitude, particularly when it comes to far left type of ideologies. They know better than you as a parent. You're only in the way. If it takes a village to raise your kid, not parents. It takes the village to raise your kid. This type of attitude is very permissive and pervasive in the in the school type setting and amongst teachers and that type of stuff and educators. Number 42, create the impression that violence and insurrection are legitimate aspects of the American tradition, that students and special interest groups should rise up and use united force to solve economic, political, and social problems. In other words, it's okay to attack police and set fire to buildings that have been barricaded and have police and other and people inside of them. It's okay. That's all right. You should rise up. You have the ability to do that and the right and the moral right to do it. I mean, during the George Floyd riots, Portland arrested almost no one. I mean, through all of those months of riots and all of what took place, all those people that were injured and $2 billion worth of damage, almost no one was arrested. And those that were arrested, almost none of them were charged with anything. The DA dropped everything. So yeah, this is definitely something that has that is a check mark for the communist goals. All right, number 43. We're almost there. Overthrow all colonial governments before native populations are ready for self-government. So, any kind of self-government is a negative to Marxism. The idea is that you need to be upholding to the government. The government will take care of you. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think. You don't have to nothing. You just stand in line. You get your bread. We'll feed you. We'll do all this stuff. Again, eventually it's going to implode, but it can't go forever. But number 44, internationalize the Panama Canal. This one was kind of an interesting one, and when you really look back on history, it's definitely interesting from that point of view as well. Democratic President Bill Clinton actually first gave full control of the canal in 1999 to Panama. And since then, communist China has moved to take control of the canal by buying the land on either side of it. They are definitely looking to control the Panama Canal now. And I found that it was an interesting, again, we're talking about 1963 here. And so anyway, that one I guess is kind of a check mark. Now, last one, number 45, repeal the colony reservation so that United States cannot prevent the World Court from seizing jurisdiction over domestic problems, give the world court jurisdiction over nations and individuals alike. Yeah, this is a big one. This is that kind of that world government stuff. This would circumvent our laws and our court system and everything else. Now, we haven't done that. Okay, we haven't been a part of the world court and whatnot, and it's definitely very communist. The world court is an evil organization that just basically seeks to control the world. And so, even back in 1963, this was a goal of theirs. And I wanted to go through these. Found it very interesting that way back then, that and again, I'm old, and this was before I was born. Way back then, the Communist Party had this set of goals, and the fact that it was read into our judicial congressional record was really interesting. It kind of preserved some. I found out about it, and I wanted to bring it to you, and I found it a very interesting exercise. I would love to hear what you thought about it. You can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. Please go to our YouTube channel. You can like and share there, and that always helps us. And thank you for listening.
This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.